One. Welcome. I'm Rob Moyer from the Ocean River Institute, and today we're talking about plastic pollution. And my guest today is Nancy Downs. Hi, Nancy.
Hey, Rob. Thanks so much for having me on your show. It's great to be here.
Well, I can tell by the paneling that you're up in the far corners of Maine or something.
I am. I'm visiting with my family in Rangeley, Maine.
Well, we're really glad that you've come back from the West Coast as the Massachusetts campaign organizer for Oceana. I'm having trouble with that.
That's okay. Oceana.
Oceana, thank you.
You're welcome.
And prior to that, you've been the Southern California Regional Manager for Surfrider. And as such, you've spent a lot of time on beaches or just off of beaches and have some stories to tell about beach cleanups. So tell us about your experiences there.
Absolutely. So with Surfrider Foundation, one of the easy activities that we did was picking up trash from our local beaches. And my very first beach cleanup was in 1995. And you come down to the beach with well intentions. You know, you want to have bags for people and bottles for people. So, you know, we had maybe 20 people that came to our first beach cleanup, and we had water bottles for them, but they were single use, right? And we had plastic bags for them to pick up the trash, but they were single use. And we had rubber gloves so that their hands wouldn't get dirty or they might not pick up something dangerous, and they were single use. And when we're, right? So
yeah.
When we're done with the cleanup, we like to lay out the trash and do what we call a trash audit, right? So we separate the straws and the bottle caps and the cigarette butts and all the different items and ask people, hey, look at all these things that we as human beings are using in our daily lives. What can we do, or what changes can we make? And what we realized, the irony is that all those bottles, bags and gloves, we had created more trash than what we had actually picked up on that day.
Oh my gosh. There you were, prepared to get lots of stuff, and suddenly the stuff was the stuff.
The stuff was the stuff. It was too much stuff.
So how did you adapt?
So the evolution over time was we realized we needed to bring reusable items, bring your own, right? So over time, people started bringing their own reusable water bottles. They brought their own cotton garden gloves. We either had, buckets that we could reuse, or in some cases, we would provide canvas bags, and those bags could be washed after the cleanup so that they were constantly reused and we weren't creating more plastic pollution.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But it is a real problem. We're seeing more and more plastics everywhere we go. And now I'm starting to see more masks discarded than plastic bottles. Because here in Massachusetts, we have a bottle bill and stuff.
Right.
So we need to take a national federal approach to this. And that is what the Break Free from Plastic Pollution bill is all about. So tell us a bit about that bill.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you and to everyone today about the Break Free from Plastic Pollution bill. We feel like it's a comprehensive solution to the plastic pollution crisis, starting out with single-use plastics. So.
Yeah, and like the bags and the straws and the plastic cups and the cutlery, and it's just so many things that maybe we don't have to have single use. Like the bags could be multi-use bags, or better yet, not plastic at all. But at least they're not just going into the waste stream.
Right. I think in Massachusetts and around the country, we were addressing those single-use items one by one. We would do a bag ban, or we would do a straw ban, and we're finding out that that's not enough. We need a nationwide ban on these pervasive items.
And it's really great because then all the businesses have the same playing field. It isn't like some different stuff.
Right.
But there's more than single use involved in this bill, right?
Right. There's like 6 pillars or core foundations to this bill. In addition, the bill would establish programs to refund consumers for returning their beverage containers, which is not consistent also across the United States. So it would make refunds consistent as well.
That's good, because beaches don't know boundaries. So it's important that if you're on that side of the beach, you can still redeem your bottle and stuff.
Exactly. You know what else? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you about what companies could do.
Sure. So the bill's also going to hold companies that are creating plastics fiscally responsible for the collection, the management, recycling, and composting of these plastic products. So even in the creation of them, a minimum percentage of these products have to be reusable, recyclable, or compostable, and they have to have an increasing percentage of recycled content within them before being sold to consumers.
That's great. We want to get that stuff away from the trash and going back into being reused.
Right.
Oh yeah, so I've got some new sandals here that have, these bottoms are made from plastic bottles.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And you're reminding me of a friend I have. She lived in California, but has decided, she found out about the plastic pollution problem and wanted to do something creative where that plastic pollution was being turned into something beautiful, being reused. So she sourced discarded fishing nets and recycled that into, found people that were recycling that into a nylon thread. And she now has the most beautiful recycled upscale bikinis and bathing suits that are made out of these discarded fishing nets. It's incredible.
That's incredible. I worry about the bikini feeling like a fishing net, but when I bought these sandals, they also had socks that had plastic bottles sewn into them. And it's a nice soft weave. It doesn't feel like there's plastic bottles in it at all.
It's incredible.
That's really incredible. Isn't that great?
Right.
And then, but we have these pure plastic things, and we don't often know whether we can recycle them or not.
Right. Well, so let's talk a little bit more manufacturing. The bill will call for a complete reduction in the manufacturing of single-use products overall. And I guess for groups like Oceana, that's really exciting because we're hearing from the industry that plastic production just in general is expected to increase to quadruple by 2050. And that's an alarming amount of plastic considering how much. Four times as much
more production
as what we're producing today. That has to stop because we cannot recycle our way out of this mess. It's too much. So I'm excited that the bill is calling for an overall reduction in manufacturing of these single-use items.
Especially the single-use. They should only make stuff that they can just keep using over, it's a permanent part of something because the plastic doesn't degrade.
Right.
Yeah, so I got ahead of the game here. I was going to ask you about labeling.
Right. I think the other thing for folks going through their day-to-day lives, that recycling and labeling, it can be very confusing. Different towns take different items, the labels, some of it's taken, some of it's not taken. What this bill will do will create a national standardized labeling system, recycling and composting receptacles, and producers would be required to include labels on their products that's easy to read and understand. So I think that's a great step in the right direction while we're trying to reduce manufacturing of these items.
Yeah, no, it's really good that they can clearly know what to do and where to put it and stuff.
Absolutely.
And then we come to, and eventually we put it out there, and in this case, China wouldn't take it anymore. So we got to the point where we weren't doing the recycling. We said we were recycling and shipping it off to China and who knows where else. What can we do about that? Does the bill address that?
Yeah, and you're right. We were sending it to countries who would be people that would pick through the waste that we would send, and they would take what was valuable to them if there was a price or value for that trash. But then those countries did not have the infrastructure to handle the remaining waste that was of no value. And unfortunately, you can imagine that would end up in our rivers and waterways and ultimately the ocean. And like you said, there are no boundaries to our oceans. So again, this bill, the Break Free from Plastic Pollution bill, would put a limit on the exportation of plastic waste to other countries, and that would be enforced and allow our country, the United States, to better track waste, verify, and publicly report that these products are being managed responsibly, even at the disposal. So again, from top to bottom, manufacturing, labeling, refunds, this bill has it all. It's so comprehensive, and we really would like to see this bill passed.
Yeah, it's really important that we have clear legislation so the businesses can figure out what they have to do. You know, when I was working in Salem, Mass, at the Peabody Museum there, we saw all these toxic chemicals coming into the harbor. And it turned out that Eastern Polaroid was putting their silver nitrate down the drain.
Wow.
And so I arranged to meet with the president of Polaroid and said, look, we live in this beautiful coastal communities. Can you please not put it down the drain? You know, don't send it to China. And they found out when they kept the silver nitrate, they could reuse it and there was a value. And,
Wonderful.
you know, and whereas we're exporting this stuff and it's making people sick as they pick through it, and businesses might find that there is a value to keeping it. And they can do the, what is it? Cradle to grave, except there's no grave, it's just circular. Keep the stuff being used by the manufacturing, you know, when you throw out stuff. That's really good to have a bill like that. So we got this great bill. How can listeners help get the bill passed?
Yeah, so Oceana is actively working throughout Massachusetts. Please join Oceana. Rob is going to put up a screen that will show folks watching how to get in touch with me. So we're looking for active folks in the community to participate. We are asking them to call on their elected officials to co-sponsor this bill. We have 2 members of Congress here in Massachusetts that we would love to have them join the Mass delegation and support the Break Free from Plastic Pollution bill. Did you want to talk about it as well, Rob? And
Oh, absolutely. So there, can you see the page now?
yes.
Yeah, so Nancy Downs at ndowns@oceana.org.
Yep.
And then you have a web page for the Massachusetts Oceana Volunteers. And if you can't read the site, it says https://bit.ly/M, A for Ma, hyphen Oceana, OCEANA hyphen volunteers. And that we invite you to join with Nancy's Rangers here, and let's all get together. And you can also get together with me at the Ocean River Institute. So my email address is rob@oceanriver.org. And if you click on www.oceanriver.org, you will come to our homepage and you'll see 6 different campaigns to choose from. And one of them is the plastic bill. And you click on that, and there's an opportunity for you to not only sign our pledge, but I'm more interested in personal comments. And so if you write me a personal comment, I'll help you write it even better so that it sounds really good. And then we post it on our website. So if you go to the website, you can find, we've got over 1,000 comments come in from all 50 states and territories. And you can click on Massachusetts and see who's there. But if anyone listening is outside of Massachusetts, we really need your help in getting this federal bill approved. So invite everybody to contact Nancy and me about, you know, how we can be collective voices. And that's what we do at Ghost River Institute, is we help you develop your voice, and then we make sure that you are heard, not only by each other, because it helps inform ourselves, but by the decision maker. And they really love hearing this stuff.
Right. I agree with you, Rob, that elected officials, you know, they're used to hearing from environmental groups like us all the time, but they're very pleasantly surprised and really value when constituents from their own district call them up and say, hey, this plastic pollution issue, I've just heard about it. It's really important to me, and I want you to support this piece of legislation. They love those phone calls.
They do. And I will print out all the comments and take them to Washington on paper. And maybe not nowadays, but I used to before the current administration. And that way staffers could flip through it and see the national sentiments. And it's not just everyone saying, don't do this, but everyone's got personal stories. And that they would, sometimes the communications director would come out and say, Rob, you know, I've heard from this person, but I don't know this person. You know, thanks a lot, and it means a lot for, you know, you've got to make it accessible. Unfortunately, even when you're calling in, the caller is not going to repeat the message you leave. They're just going to say, we got one more call from this town or something. So we want to do full bore, all different approaches we can get. Also, you know, please invite your friends to write something. Check us out. You might see a friend already there who's written on it and stuff. But it's this, democracies work by individual face-to-face communications. So we at the Ocean River Institute step away from messaging and are all about conversations, about people listening and responding to each other. So if a decision maker you can tell by these comments that these are heartfelt. And if the speaker sounds like the decision maker's mother, all the more reason that they're going to listen to it and stuff. Or if the staffers are gathering this, and so you want to get the word out and stuff. But this is yeah.
Right.
We've got a few minutes to talk about this.
Yeah, I think Massachusetts is making really great progress. I understand 139 cities have already passed individual bag bans, but as you can imagine, that makes a lot of inconsistencies from city to city to city. So it would be so great if there was just a consistent federal piece of legislation so that every city, every state is operating under the same rules and regulations when it comes to single-use plastic pollution.
And it's easier in Massachusetts because some towns like Concord and Cambridge have put through bag bans, and so this has been part of our conversation.
Right.
But part of your work and part of my work is also working on Beacon Hill and with municipalities on reducing plastic pollution. So anyone listening who has any ideas of what we could be doing in your community or in Massachusetts, or even in the Northeast. Nancy, where's the next Osina person? I mean, you've got a pretty big, you're like it for the Northeast.
So we have someone in Wayland that works on fisheries issues, and he's actually been working on it for about 18 years here in New England, but the next campaign organizer isn't until you get down to New York City.
For plastics, it's New York City. So basically, you're it for New England.
That's right.
So if you're listening from New Hampshire or Rhode Island or whatever, please, you know, don't feel that we have to be a Bay Stater to be part of this.
Right. And I think the more local action that happens, it reassures folks at the state and federal level that Massachusetts and New England is ready for this piece of federal legislation. So any city that might want to increase policy at the local level, maybe they already have a bag ban, but they want to strengthen it. Or maybe they haven't passed one yet, but would like to start, you know, reducing their plastic pollution, please reach out to me. I can absolutely help you with that local action.
Right. And we can have members of our volunteers, you know, writing to your community. We can coordinate people writing to those communities, not filling up their telephones so much, but, you know, getting the word out of local stuff.
That's right. Wonderful.
I was talking to Senator Tom Udall, legislative aide who's directing the Senate version of this bill. And he was saying that right now it's a very bipartisan bill, that everybody is encountering stuff on the beach, especially this time of year, and they don't like seeing plastic pollution, and they want to be able to tell people that they're making a difference, that they're doing something. And we see this in businesses when Frito-Lay improved the fuel efficiency of their trucks by 20%. All of a sudden, everybody wanted to drive the new trucks because they were driving them to the elementary schools to show off what the parent had as a new, new equipment. And employment for Frito-Lay applications went up because they had a nice product that they were good for the environment. So politicians, and I get my meetings in Washington because they'd much rather talk to me about oceans and watersheds than war, taxes, and healthcare. And so I stay on topic. And these are where the family experiences are happening, are with people out there in nature encountering plastics or whatever. So this is a all for one and then one great bill kind of effort.
Mhm. And I think reusable really is coming around and becoming extremely popular. I bumped into a woman at the Harwich Farmers Market a few weeks ago. She has a trailer behind her car and she has a whole reuse station. So you can refill your jars with shampoo, conditioner, lotion. They have soap that's wrapped in paper, that's not wrapped in plastic. She had beeswrap, and so instead of saran wrap, you're wrapping like with a beeswax cloth. She had all these incredible products, and she goes around to the Orleans Farmers Market, the Harwich Farmers Market, and really educates people along the way that reusable is really the way to go.
Right, and alternatives. So use beeswax. You know,
Yep.
I found these wonderful paper waxy sandwich bags that even have a piece of tape on them so you can fold it and it stays closed. You don't have to fold it up and stuff. Little
Exactly.
things like that. Also, the big manufacturers, when they say you can't build with plastic, well, like so Legos are now being made not out of plastic, but out of another material like a cotton or something. I forget exactly what it was. But so that's another way is just to get away from it.
Right. Well, and here in Massachusetts, I hope with these huge universities like MIT and Harvard and all these like the intelligent group of young thinkers that there's so many alternative solutions to this problem. We really need to go. I always think of people, they say, well, what can I wrap my brownie in if I can't use saran wrap? And the answer is, well, what did your grandmother wrap it in? We used wax paper, we used parchment paper. There's so many different solutions to plastics, at least
Yeah.
plastics.
Yeah. So when I buy fish at the supermarket, I'll ask the guy to wrap it in paper instead of putting it in the plastic clam box. You just have to
There you
ask.
go. Yeah. So this bill, I think, is really going to address all those layers of these problems, from recycling to disposal to production to alternatives. I think it's really an incredible piece of legislation, and I sincerely hope that all the members of Congress in Massachusetts will support this bill.
Yeah, it's important to being a sponsor means that you're talking to the other sponsors about, is everything my constituents need in this bill? Like, well, Jim McGovern just came through, and his district includes Leicester, which is the birthplace of the plastic industry for the U.S. And so he knows he's tight with the business community, and the business community just wants clarity, because it's not that plastics are bad, it's plastic pollution is bad. And as long as we can keep it from not polluting, then that's okay. But
Yeah.
so it's important for sponsors to, he responded to your request to sponsor it because he the committees and hadn't looked at it, and he knew he had to be really careful going into that because he had plastic industries in his district, and it can't just be a shame on you kind of bill and stuff.
Right.
And what's not.
Yeah, I think this is really, I heard a great analogy the other day. Someone at Oceana was saying, when you think of production, it's like a bathtub, right? So plastic production is this bathtub that's overflowing. So you're in the bathtub, it's now overflowing into your bathroom. What is the first thing? Do you get out of the tub and run for the mop first, or do you turn off the tap? And so I think what we're really asking people to consider is, we need to stop the tap because the bathtub of plastic is sort of overflowing into our ocean, and we don't have enough time to mop it up if we haven't turned off the tap. And I thought that was a really great analogy.
That's a really great analogy. And we're working with businesses to close the tap down a bit. We're not like with the fossil fuel industry, we're out there pulling the plug, just say no whatsoever. No. But we're not pulling the plug on the tub. We're just saying, let's work on ways to have no overflow, because it's the overflow we're worried about. Yeah. We don't care if people have plastic parts inside their body from operations and stuff. That's, that stuff's got to last forever. But we're not saying stop plastic production, because there are really good uses of plastics.
There are.
But we're saying when that object's life has expired, let's be creative and find a new life for that object, that material. And right. Not just headed toward the landfill. Imagine how creative we'd have to be if we just closed all landfills and said, nope, you got to find a use for this somehow.
Ooh, that would
Unfortunately,
be
a lot of
something.
it's burned in the incinerators to generate electricity here in Haverhill and stuff.
Right.
Well, thank you, Nancy, for taking the time to explain this bill to us.
Welcome.
It's been really informative. Again, if people want to learn more about the Break Free from Plastic Pollution bill, you can write to Nancy. Oh, I see. We've been leaving you up here the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah. And so there we are. And Nancy, thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I really look forward to working with folks that are interested in passing the Break Free from Plastic Pollution bill. So thanks for having me, Rob. I'm looking forward to working with you in Massachusetts as well.
Well, thank you for being on the show, and it's just great working with you on getting people engaged and getting legislators on board. So thank you thank you.
My
And
pleasure.
thank you all for listening to this and viewing our program today. Please take care of yourselves, and then take a moment, take a little care of this earth of ours, and take care of your plastic waste, please, please, please. And thanks a lot for listening. That's it. Thank you.